I can't hear anybody either.
No one's really talking right now.
Oh,
That's all.
I can hear you.
hi. Hi, Mary. Hi. Hi, Amber. How are you? You look beautiful.
You as well.
Oh, thank you.
I know, it's nice to see everybody.
I know, it is.
People.
Yeah.
I don't think, who do I know here? I know Matt, I know Sejal, Amber, I think you and I have met, but it's been a while.
I've met Amber and I know Matt. I don't think we've met. Hello. Hi, Megan.
There are so many people on here. This is so exciting. Oh my gosh.
Very cool.
Hi, everybody.
Good. This is a great idea.
I'm not good at this. There we are.
I have been talking with the mute on for a while, haven't I? Yes. Let's start over. I really apologize for that. I've been talking with the mute on for a while, haven't I? Oh. Yes. Okay. All right. We're starting over. Fresh start. Thanks for that. Hello. Welcome. Thanks so much to everyone here in our Zoom room and to everyone following along in the live stream on YouTube and at LitHub's virtual book channel. My name is Matt Bell. It's my pleasure to be hosting you all from my home office for this online literary happy hour with readings by Megan Giddings, Mary South, and Amber Sparks. Just to give you an idea how we're going to proceed today, I'll begin by introducing our three writers who will then each read for around 7 minutes or so. After, I'll return to thank them, and then we'll use Zoom's breakout room feature to separate the Zoom audience into tables for socializing and conversation. I'll also end the live stream at that time. While people in the breakouts, I'll stay in the main room to chat with anyone who has to leave those rooms or joins late. A couple of points of order: please leave your microphones muted while the readings are going on, but then please feel free to turn them back on once we're in the sort of socializing and conversation part of the hour. Please note there's a reaction button in Zoom. It's probably in your bottom bar where you can clap, which I hope you'll feel free to use liberally. Puts a little like clapping hands on your picture. You can also use the text chat throughout the readings to cheer, be enthusiastic, otherwise be a great audience for our readers. That would also be the best place to let me know if something's going wrong, like when you couldn't hear me. I think that's all I have to say. Thanks to so much to everyone taking part in this. I've never done anything like this before. As you can see, we're still figuring some things out, but I hope it's going to go great. And now I'll introduce our three readers. Okay. Megan Giddings is the author of the novel Lakewood, out from Amistad next Tuesday, March 24th. She's a fiction editor at The Offing and a features editor at The Rumpus. In 2018, she was a recipient of a Barbara Deming Memorial Fund grant for feminist fiction. Her stories are forthcoming or have been recently published in Black Warrior Review, Arts and Letters, Gulf Coast, and the Iowa Review. Megan lives in the Midwest. Our second reader will be Mary South. She's the author of the story collection You Will Never Be Forgotten, out last week from FSG. Her writing has appeared in American short fiction, The Baffler, The Believer, Bomb, The Collages, Electric Literature, The New Yorker, and many other places. For many years, she has worked with Diane Williams as an editor at the literary journal Noon. Our third reader will be Amber Sparks, who's the author most recently of And I Do Not Forgive You, a collection of stories published in February by Liveright. She's also the author of The Unfinished World, and her fiction and essays have appeared in American Short Fiction, Paris Review, Tin House, Grant, and elsewhere. She lives in Washington, D.C. with her husband, daughter, and 2 cats. Thank you so much. Let's begin. Please join me in raising a glass to our first reader, Megan Giddings.
All right, can you all hear me? Okay, thank you. So before I'd done a few events before tour was about to eventually start, and I talked a lot about how this book is about healthcare and how it's about inequities that are both racial, gender, and also, of course, spread across, class lines and everything. But I feel like everybody here does not really need to hear that talk. I think we've all been angry enough and fed up enough already this week, and we'll probably be fed up over the coming weeks too. Oh, that was a bummer. All right. Anyway, so this is Lakewood. It's out March 24th on Tuesday. And I'm going to read from the 3rd chapter. And I think all you really need to know, and you'll find out on page 1 if you buy the book, is that Lena's grandmother died. And that is literally in the first 2 sentences. And then she finds out her family has a lot of debt. Also, this book is huge on me, so I feel very funny right now. Anyway, they told Lena that to maintain privacy, all buildings were disguised as part of Great Lakes Shipping Company. The closest intake office to Lena was only a 1.5 mile walk from her dorm. She recognized the address when they said it. Most of the building had a rich person store feel, like the Allwood toy store and a high-end Taiwanese restaurant that Lena always wanted to try, but couldn't convince herself to pay $25 for an entree. Great Lakes Shipping Company, the woman on the phone said, was on floor 2. When you go up the stairs, walk past the drinking fountains, and it's right across from the olive oil shop, a living liquid. Side note, this is based on a real place in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Anyway, so it's easy to miss, the woman said, and she was right. Lena's eyes didn't register it the first time with its gray curtains over the window and the cream on white logo. She walked down to the end of the hall, turned around, and went back. The olive oil shop was brightly lit. Rows of copper dispensers, posters of Italy on the wall. A man was filling up a styrofoam cup, clearly meant for coffee, with habanero-infused oil. Lena considered going in to try some. There were containers of bread next to each dispenser, and she also wanted to see if he was truly going to drink a cup of olive oil. It was better, though, to be early, Lena decided as she walked inside the office. Inside, a white woman with a haircut that looked as if she'd stolen her stylist, an image of a motorcycle helmet, and said, "Yes, that's the look," was waiting. "Your IDs." Lena fished her wallet out of her coat pocket. The woman was wearing a navy pantsuit with an American flag printed on the label. There was a badge clipped to her waistband. Walking over to her, Lena bumped into a small table and knocked over a stack of magazines. When she bent to pick them up, the woman told her to just leave it. Her tone was as if Lena had spent hours knocking over the magazines and picking them up and straightening them, just to knock them over, and she couldn't take it anymore. Lena handed over the IDs. "Looks good. Now we have some forms for you to fill out." She led Lena into what might have been the grayest room in the entire world. Everything in it, chairs, desks, pens, flooring, wall tile, the fire extinguisher, elephant gray. The strangeness of the room and the woman's brusque attitude made Lena want to joke, to find a way of rescuing herself from her discomfort. Instead, she reminded herself that now was the time to be pleasant. Blank. Don't be weird. Don't embarrass yourself. The woman gestured at Lena to have a seat, handing her a clipboard and a pen. Page 1 asked for the basics: address, full legal name, place of birth, how she had found out about the study, email address, emergency contacts. "Have you ever been a participant in any other clinical studies?" "No," Lena wrote. Page 2 reminded her that to participate in the Lakewood project was to consent to a necessary diminishment of her privacy. If you consent to this, provide all your passwords for social media, email addresses, phone passcode. Also provide any potential answers you can think of for standard security questions, such as the make of your first car, the name of your childhood pet, your mother's maiden name. Lena coughed. May I have a glass of water? Page 4 was where the health questions began. Do you have any allergies? When was the last time you had vaginal intercourse? Anal? When was the last time, exact date if possible, that you vomited? Do you have a family health history of strokes, cancer, diabetes? Next to the paternal health history family heading, Lena wrote information not available. Her hands shook as she did it, assuming that when they saw that, it would make her ineligible. What's the longest you've been consistently intoxicated for? She cleared her throat again. May I have a glass of water? Please fill out the forms. Lena stared at the white paper, let the words go out of focus. The woman's attitude, the questions, it made a small voice in her own head say, "You're already feeling weird. Get out of here." Her grandmother, though, she'd cleaned houses, pulled the hair and gunk out of tubs and sinks, catered on the weekends, babysat, took odd jobs, worked for people who she said were proof that God has a sense of humor. Your grandmother, she gave you everything. You're the one in charge now, Lena thought. She flipped the page. At the top, it said welcome in bold underlined type. Our most precious resources in this country are patriots like you, those who are willing to give themselves to help this great nation. Your contribution will help end suffering and unhappiness. So, Lena put down her pen. This is a government program, and that's it. Thanks for having me read.
Thank you so much, Megan. It's such a pleasure to get to hear you read from Lakewood. And the book's not out yet, so a lot of you haven't read it yet, but I got lucky enough to read it early, and it's really fantastic and lovely. And I'm glad I got to engineer a chance to be at one of Megan's first readings of it. So thank you very much, Megan. Our next reader is going to be Mary South.
Hello. Well, can everyone hear me? Okay. My book is You Will Never Be Forgotten. It's a collection of short stories. It often has to do with characters using technology and the internet to self-soothe or mitigate strong feelings, which is a little bit eerie to me as we've now sort of all come to live our lives online. But I think there's also, in addition to a lot of pain, a lot of tenderness and joy in the book as well. There's a story about a summer camp for internet trolls, for example. The piece I'm going to read to you is the first story in the book. It's called, it's the beginning of the first story of the book called Keith Prime. And it's sort of a lot of my anger about like gig economy jobs and how places like Amazon treat their workers. A friend calls it Never Let Me Go meets free 2-day shipping. So thank you for joining me for a literary happy hour. I'm drinking whiskey. I've decided to go straight to the hard stuff. So here's Keith Prime. The Keiths are Keiths because they are not particularly handsome, not particularly intelligent, not particularly kind. A Keith would never train to compete in professional sports or practice an instrument until he became a maestro. Neither would a Keith jump in front of a loaded gun, but he would help you gather the contents of your grocery bag if you spilled it on the sidewalk. On a city bus, your gaze would pass pleasantly over a Keith as though over a stretch of ocean. There are warehouses of Stephanies, warehouses of Daniels, warehouses of Mayas, Georges, Crystals, Jamals, and Nicoles, but I am in Keith's. It's always sad when one of your Keiths is harvested. We're obligated to see it once, at orientation, a Keith scooped out like ice cream from a bucket, or disassembled as a very large jigsaw puzzle. In Tibet, monks spend months making mandalas out of sand, intricate patterns representing the universe, in order to destroy them with a flick of the wrist when they are finished. I guess Keith is a mandala composed of body parts. After my husband died, a coworker in Stephanie's loaned me a book by a Canadian Buddhist nun, which is how I know about mandalas. The nun relates a relatable story about how she was broken open when her husband cheated on her and asked for a divorce. Thanks, that was beneficial reading material, I told my coworker. But I wished she had entrusted it to me before my husband was eaten alive by his nervous system. Our warehouse for Keiths isn't so much a warehouse as it is a hospital where all the patients are comatose. The Keiths cry when they are born, but then they are placed into a state of perpetual sleep. Electrodes hooked up to their scalps confirm that their brains emit mostly delta waves. If by chance a Keith did dream, would he have anything to dream about since he has not lived? I imagine Keith's dreams would be like a black vista of space or a blank sheet of paper. Conceptualizing nothingness is difficult. Nonetheless, we take excellent care of the Keiths. Every day, I stretch Keith's limbs, reposition him to prevent bed sores, examine his diaper, cut his toenails and hair should they warrant a trim, lubricate his eyeballs. Of course, we also want the Keiths in prime condition. Despite the warning not to get attached, I confess that I do have a favorite Keith. My Keith has a small mole beneath his bottom lip, nestled within the indent of his chin that distinguishes him from the rest. Usually, when a nurse in a Keith fulfillment center acquires a fondness, it's for an infant, a doll of flesh that does not fuss. The veteran nurse among us, Wanda, has reared a Keith from the artificial womb to the operating table. They say she observed while doctors removed his kidneys and corneas. In comparison, my career has been short, a handful of years. But Keith with the mole has been with me the entire time. I worry that he is due imminently, so I secretly strive to provide him extra attention. However, it's important to be cautious. I risk a reprimand, docked pay, for the display of a bias. Cameras were installed after a nurse did something unspeakable to a Nicole she couldn't stand. I cradle Keith with the mole against my chest to turn him over. Then I massage his butt. "You're special," I whisper in his ear, at a moment when I'm pretty sure no one is looking. "You're a special Keith." The next morning, I am alarmed to discover that Keith with the mole is conscious. Or, if not conscious, he is at least awake. His stirring occurred during the zombie hours, those 2, 3, 4 o'clocks of the graveyard shift, but no one could say exactly when because we dim the lights at night to accommodate circadian rhythms in the skin. I am overcome with guilt, and I remember being made into the bed as a giggling little girl, except now the sheet floating down upon me is horrid complicity. Did I rouse him through the force of my will? Keiths have occasionally surfaced, the doctors admit. There might be a malfunction in the infusion pump, or his medication wasn't switched. We'll have him drifting back off into the abyss in a jiffy. The doctors dose Keith with considerable quantity of barbiturates, yet he does not fall into liminality. They mutter. Keith groans, and though it sounds more like a death rattle, this groan is him rattling to life. What follows are the tests, the MRIs, the ECTs, the cognitive battery. Exercising the Keiths has limited effect, so he has muscle atrophy, reduction in bone mass, and slackening of the cartilage. He's a violin that has sat unplayed for decades, and he is also constipated. As we attempt to ease him off his nutrient serum with cottage cheese, applesauce, and pureed carrots, he vomits and vomits. It's the instant when Keith with the mole recognizes his reflection that management realizes they have a problem. Respectfully, we assert that it is ethically tricky to defend cleaning out a Keith who has reached the mirror stage of development, the doctors write in their reports. "Keith," I say as we stare together at his face. "Fief," he replies. "Keith," I repeat and wiggle his mole. "Teeth," he tries. Keith is better with vowels than consonants. I wonder if I should give him a new name, but that would probably confuse us both. I'm summoned into the supervision office and I'm afraid that I'll be fired. Instead, they have a proposal. The Keith Fulfillment Center isn't equipped to handle a walking, talking Keith, they declare. How would I like to become Keith's temporary legal guardian? You'll be compensated, they add. with a proviso that you agree to restock Keith after we have determined his future. I agree, then I sign forms, a leaning tower of tiny print. From what I can tell, it's a variation on the standard transportation release negotiated with our partner shipping companies. This contract is more voluminous because it accounts for the whole Keith. Congratulations, they say. Please note that the Keith Fulfillment Center is not liable for damages to your health or property caused by a Keith. I'll stop there and say, if you heard some wheezing, it's just from a very old pug named Daisy who's here. And thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Mary. That was fantastic. I could listen to you read forever. So I think as long as we're all social distanced, you will have to come back and just read maybe like every day until this is over. So thank you so much for that. I love Mary's book so much. I hope you will pick it up if you are listening. Our third and final reader will be Amber Sparks. Amber, whenever you're ready.
Great. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay, cool. So this is like, I used to be a stand-up comedian like a million years ago, and this is like a nightmare for a stand-up comedian because like you can't hear anyone laughing, which is why I decided not to read something funny because that just sounded scary. So I actually have a, first of all, I want to thank Matt for putting this together. It's so awesome to like see all of your faces, actual people that don't belong to my family. It's amazing. And I want to thank Mary and Megan. It's so exciting to actually get to read with you guys. So yay. Both their books are awesome and you should buy them. And I am going to read something that seemed appropriate. It's a story called Everything is Terrible, but you should read the story, or I'm going to read it to you actually. All right. So we will begin. This is a story born of need. It's the story you need right now. This is a story of a mother and a daughter in which the mother doesn't disappear, doesn't peace out, doesn't die. This is a story where the mother stays. It's the story your mother told you when you were small, the one where Tiresias was struck blind when he saw his mother bathing with Athena, but the goddess instead granted him visions of the future. It's the story where your mother whispered, "We'll have such secrets together," and you felt loved instead of frightened. It's the story in which you were proud of the stories your mother told you, in which you never begged your mother to please just tell you the same goddamn fairy tales that every other kid's mom told them. It's a story where your mother became a classicist because she was fascinated by mythology and not because the story of Philomela resonated with her so deeply. In this story, your mother never lost her tongue. It's the story in which, in the 10th grade, when you asked your boyfriend, "Do you think I'm odd?" instead of his laughing and saying no, putting out the long white flame of strangeness you'd kept protected since you were old enough to understand yourself. Instead, he said yes. In this story, he said, "Yes, yes, yes, you are odd," and the flame whooshed up and burned your old life clean and quick as paper and left you new, shining, phoenix feathered. It's the story where your parents divorced when you were little, not a teenager. And when you asked your mother, "What are you thinking of?" she never said dying. No, in this story, she said flying. And in this story, she told you how wings work. In this story, Icarus sealed his wings with something stronger than wax, and he sailed right up into the sun until Apollo plucked him out and praised him. Here, Apollo is the good father that Icarus never had. In this story, red means nothing. In this story, rope is for climbing, not falling. Here, there are no signifiers, no associations, as if everything were happening for the first time, as if sensations were like the closed cells of monks, and gardenia perfume didn't smell like anything but gardenias. It's not that there is no sadness in this story. Stories need conflict, and crying can be dreamy, but sadness, like ships, must be steered, and this story doesn't come from a need for catharsis. There are no iced over ponds, no wooden wheels stuck in the mud. There are no bodies hanging from a ceiling fan. This story doesn't turn into a horror movie when people tell you you're just like your mother. In this story, the secret staircase to Hades is in your bedroom closet, and you can descend whenever you like, as many times as you need to keep on saving your mother. In this story, you take a sack of barley bread soaked in honey for Cerberus, just like she taught you. You bring her back again and again and again. You give her time for her hair to go from indigo to white. You skirt the hangman's knot. In this story, everyone is safe. This story comes with a guarantee of safety. In this story, you aren't afraid to have children. In this story, when women are attacked, they grow armor like a sudden carapace. They grow an extra tongue so they can sound their attacker's name forever while also singing karaoke, while talking to friends, while eating pizza at a restaurant they are not afraid to walk home from. This is a story where women are alone all the time at bars and on hiking trails and in quiet suburban neighborhoods and chattering city streets, and nobody dreams of fucking with them because so many women have extra tongues these days. This is a story where bad men reap what they have sown. In this story, somebody else is president. In this story, nobody drops inside themselves and drowns after their boyfriend rapes them. In this story, nobody finds out returning home for comfort that their mother too was once raped. In fact, in this story, there is no rape. We all need a story without rape right now. In this story, there's no such thing as social media. Just kidding. This story can only fix so much, and the rest is up to you and your followers, and especially the ones you call friends. In this story, though, the dreadful people are all banned for life. In this story, there are colorful birds, warm milk, candy hearts, strange cats, good dogs, stars, friends, moon landings, mothers, wildflowers, video games, and kindness. It's an old-fashioned story, this one. Kindness flows through it like a lazy river, rafted by every character. It nourishes everyone. It's a slow story, the kind of slowness that allows the reader to settle in, to eat well, to be unafraid, to learn what kind of story this will be over time. This is a story where your mother still tucks you in at night, metaphorically or literally, your choice. There are no weapons in this story. There might be razors, yes, but only the sort you need to cut out the bad parts and leave the good bits, the bits that will save your life. Thanks.
Amber, thank you so much. That was so fantastic. I love that story so much, and it was so good to get to hear you read it. I can't thank you and Megan and Mary enough for doing this for all of us. It's just really fantastic and exciting. For those of you who are following on the YouTube live stream, we're going to end the live stream in a second. There are links to the 3 things that were just read in the notes, and also links to buy their books if you'd like to buy them online from bookshop.org, or else please call your local indie who could really use the help right now. I'm going to be very, very glad to hear from you. That would be the best option, of course. So we found out in my grad class on Monday that Zoom does not do great when a bunch of people try to clap at once, but I'm going to unmute everyone at the same time, and we're going to try to clap and see what happens. Okay, so all unmuted, please try to clap. Thank you so much to our readers. For those of you who are in the Zoom room with us, stay put. We're going to have the social part of this. For those of you on YouTube, sadly, there's not a way for me to easily loop you into this part. So we're going to end the live stream here. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening to Megan and Mary and Amber. And hopefully we'll have a chance to do something like this again soon. Thank you.